Jonathan,
Cool.
I'm really glad that we could jump on today because you have quite a fun journey in that you've gone from being a lawyer or studied to be a lawyer, started articles, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
you've ended up in copywriting and doing very well in that space and kind of really got yourself dug in there. So, where a good place to start, I think, would be just for obviously people who don't know you, kind of talk about that journey a little bit, just like how you got into copywriting and also kind of the focus in your copywriting, like if you're working with specific types of people, specific industries, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So yeah, like you said, I started off kind of the legal route, um, and that wasn't really for me. Didn't enjoy it at all. But then I kind of stumbled across copywriting through a mutual friend of ours, and it kind of resonated a lot with me. I just like social dynamics, persuasion, that sort of thing. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to commit to this thing. And then that was about a year and a half ago. Um, since then, I've kind of like just decided to specialize in the health niche. So I write a lot of like supplement copy. I do what's called like front end promos, like long sales letters, but it's all in the health and supplement niche. Um, and yeah, in the beginning it was tough, just trying to get clients, like trying to get people to take a chance on me. Um, but as you start to build relationships, as you get better at the craft, I'm now in a position where I'm kind of working with really good clients in my space, which has been quite a nice change of pace.
Yeah. And also, I know because obviously we've known each other for a while and we chat about a lot of the stuff. Like mentorship's also been a very big thing for you, having the right people around you, mentors, things like that,
Mm,
right?
yeah, mentorship. If I speak to anyone who's interested in copy or anything really, like if you even want to just become like a crypto trader, like the number one thing I think you should do is find a mentor, find someone who's doing what you want to do, has the skill set that you have, and they're getting the success that you want. And you either offer to work for them for free or you just pay them. That's the shortcut. Because what they will tell you will shortcut your journey in ways it's almost impossible to imagine. And I've seen this with myself. I've seen this with people that I've got to sign up with my mentors. And then I've seen that with people in my community who aren't necessarily being coached. And it's just a drastic difference in the level of skill that they're getting, the level of results they're getting, and just their career and their progress and momentum in general is
Mm.
very different. So 100% get a mentor.
What would you say? I mean, from your experience, what's like been the biggest benefit for you in regards to the mentorship and the circles you're in, and things like that?
The biggest benefits, so I've got a one-on-one mentor.
Mm.
The benefit there is when I'm trying to do my work, it's kind of like anything really. Let's say you want to become a professional and you want to do law, which is what I was doing before. For the first 2 years, you have to work under someone senior. He's
Mm.
called your master or your principal. So you'll do work and you'll go to them to get feedback. And the reason why is because you don't actually know what the hell you're doing. Um, so they can just teach you, watching you do, stop you from making mistakes. So the benefit there is when I'm doing work and I get lost or I'm not really sure what the next step is, and even if I don't think I'm lost, I can get that feedback that can literally make or break the difference between handing in something that's average or even potentially not right, bad. I take sometimes the wrong step. They told me the things I need to do to actually take it to a quality I wouldn't be able to get on my own. And then just in general, like helps you improve your skill level. Another benefit that I've gotten out of it is, especially if you show up and you really, you're doing well with the mentor and they can see like you're learning, you're hungry, you want to get better. They tend to refer you to clients. I mean, I'm working now with a guy in my industry who's probably like the second best copywriter in the world. Like the guy is a complete genius. And the way that I got that job was because I just impressed my mentor enough that he was like, okay, when this guy was looking for work, he connected me to him.
Mm.
There's like a hidden benefit.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. So it sounds like if I had to rephrase it a little bit, it's like the biggest thing is being they keep you on like the straightest path so you don't veer too far away from
Mm,
it. And then also
mm,
getting connected to other people who you might not
mm.
have if you hadn't been in contact with your mentor.
Exactly. They give you access to opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. How did you go about finding your current mentor?
My current mentor, I mean, I've worked with a couple of mentors over the last year. The guy that I'm currently working with, I joined up with him because there's a guy in my community, a copywriter, is really has a lot of like authority, and he kept mentioning that this one guy was like one of the best out there right now. He just kept complimenting this guy. I'm like, I've never heard this, and this guy's like really good. He never says that about anyone, really. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So I just hit the guy up on Facebook. I'm like, hey, dude, do you coach all of that stuff? He's like, yeah, I happen to have a space available now. And I just jumped right in.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting that you're like, oh, this guy doesn't really say much. Well, he does say much, but he doesn't like ever speak too highly of other things. But then that one time that he does, you're like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Mm, Yeah, you got to keep your radar open. Like, what are people saying out there about like who's good or who's doing well in this thing? So, um, yeah, my pointers are always open. I'm like, who are like the top guys, and how do I get in contact with them? How do I network with them, and how do I potentially get mentored by them? It's always on the back of my mind.
It's actually on that kind of a note. One thing I find quite funny online with the like coaches who help you scale to 6 to 7 figures, kind of that same message that everyone seems to kind of punt a lot of the time. They
Mm,
all, it's like one of them will have learned from someone else. That person has
mm,
learned from someone else. And all these paths seem to lead back to just like a handful of OG coaches. And it's like they are
mm,
like the true source of knowledge almost.
No, that's true. There's a lot of like it's almost like copycatting in a way. Everyone's just you'll see them on Facebook like they're standing behind a Lamborghini that they don't own or something like that. That's the dead giveaway.
Yeah, true that. So I mean, you went from the lawyer and you were like, this isn't for me. Like, what
Mm.
wasn't for you, kind of as part of the lawyer world?
Yeah, I mean, I was working in an office, um, and I just didn't really enjoy like I didn't enjoy working in an environment with other people all around me. I'm like introverted. I find other people distracting. I kind of like my own space, especially when I'm working. I didn't like really like working under someone or having a boss. When he revealed to me what my pay increase was going to be after like 2 years of being there, I was like, this is really unexciting. And then even just looking at the position that he was in, I'm like, okay, if I committed 20 years to this, I could potentially be well off, but he does very well. But like the time commitment, like
Mm,
the bullshit that you have to deal with, quite frankly, especially in law. I was just like, I don't really want any of that stuff. I'd rather just forge my own path. And when I saw copywriting, I'm like, look, it gives me the freedom. It's something that I'm innately interested in. And the upside potential is just way higher. So
yeah.
it's just a no-brainer.
But so you said you were already interested in copywriting, even when you were in the lawyer world, you were kind of already
Yeah.
had interest around it.
Yeah, well, sorry, let me clarify that part. I mean, when I discovered copywriting or what it was, then I was like, oh, this is something I'm innately interested in, which is essentially just, persuasion and understanding people. You got to really understand people. You're like an amateur psychologist in a way.
Yeah, knowing kind of why people buy, what kind of hits home for people, things like that, why people act.
Exactly. True, deeper motivations, all of that stuff that people might not even admit to themselves. You got to
Yeah.
know what that is and like how to, you know, use that,
Yeah, it can
for
be
lack of a better
scary
word,
sometimes
in a
actually. It's
positive way,
like,
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like even when because I've also done my fair share of learning about copywriting, just because it's good to know how to improve your writing, write in a way that resonates with people. It can be
Mm,
scary sometimes. Just even knowing that
mm.
top, like the very basic knowledge of it, and you still feel those pulls from like good copy. You're like, this stuff's powerful.
Yeah, it's operating on like a subconscious level, which is really powerful.
Yeah. So you were doing the lawyer thing. You came across copy when you were still doing the lawyer thing, and you're like, lawying's not for me. I'm going to double down on copy, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Um, so yeah, I just pretty much doubled down on it. First step that I took, I was part of a list where a guy, teaches copywriters. It's like a course. It was a program on how to get good at copy.
Yeah.
And one day in my inbox, I see this thing saying, you can coach with Copy Our Coaches. That's the company. But I just saw that they had this coaching offer attached to it. I looked at it. I saw who the guys were behind. I'm like, they look legit. Okay, I'm just going to dive in. And that's pretty much how it started. Those two guys like really helped me a lot. And the one guy in particular like encouraged me to just do sales letters, to do the thing I'm doing now. And that just helped me take off.
So you kind of already, yeah, it sounds like you didn't really need to be almost like sold very much on the idea of having a coach, having a mentor. Have you just kind of always been that way? You've always felt that way about mentorship and coaches and getting help?
I wouldn't, not necessarily. I don't know if I thought that way before. I know as I've tried other things in my life, having someone guiding me was always helping me, get results faster. But certainly when I read a book called the Talent Code, and that really just sets out like, how do you get good at a skill? How does that work? And how that, what they say is you need three things. This is going to sound obvious, but you have to really desire it. The second thing is you need to practice. And the third thing is you need a mentor. And without those three things, or if you don't have all three things, like your chances of really going to like the highest level possible is probably next to none. Every successful person, in some way they've had mentors. Most likely they've had some mentors of some nature.
Yeah, and I feel like that doesn't even apply to just entrepreneurs and people doing their own things. Like even in a business, like if you go work for a company, you have a team, like in my experience, there needs to be an onboarding process. There needs to be someone who's helping you get orientated. There needs to be, especially in the code space, someone who's taking a look and saying like, hey, I've been doing this for 5 years. That kind of approach you're taking sometimes, that's going to bite you in the butt. And that's the mentoring side. And then again, the practice is because you've got daily work going on. But again, a lot of people don't have the desire for their job. So I guess they just sit at that very like medium level of their skill.
Yeah, I think doing something that you enjoy makes a big difference to everything, like how you think, like your desire to want to take on mentors and all of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, if you can find something where you have control of your own time and freedom, and you're more in control of how much money you can make. In other words, if you work super hard, you're not waiting for a promotion in 2 years' time. That's the sort of thing that is more inspiring to people. I think when you're in the corporate route, you tend to just like lose that enthusiasm, even if you potentially like the work, because you just don't have that freedom and you don't have as much ability to see the rewards of your efforts, because it's so long it pays off over so much a longer time period.
Yeah. And in regards to when you say like you don't get to see the rewards of your efforts, how does that translate better in what you're doing now?
It translates better in that, I'm making far more money than I would have if I had stayed at the law firm. How much more? Like 3 times more. And this is within like a year period. So I know that as I'm getting better, and I'm now working with better clients, I'm structuring performance deals and things like that. The upside potential is just constantly increasing. So from that perspective, yeah.
Oh, so strictly from the financial perspective. No, I was curious because obviously I know a lot of lawyers and I know some projects and contracts and cases can run for years. So it's like where you started, you don't even like remember the journey properly. And now it's like 4 years later and it finally wraps up. So I thought you might also think about it in time, length of time wise, like, hey, we started this project 3 months ago and now we're launching it and we get to see kind of the fruits of what happens. I thought that would be also quite cool.
So I didn't say that, but you are right. That is actually another component to it. When I write something, it goes out to market and then I get results back. So it's cool to see that the fruits of my efforts in my work is actually making a difference to a company, and I can see the stats behind it. And that is true in law, cases. You're just constantly taking on more stuff, and they take years to get resolved. So you don't really feel like what you're doing has an immediate impact. It's like really reassuring when I write a new lead for a company, and they come back and it's like destroyed the current control. And you're like, holy crap! If I calculate how much money I'm adding onto their bottom line, like that's really cool. So it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
and the results
And
that you see.
and also just thinking about it now, I imagine that's brilliant for your developing your skill set as well, because you've seen that
Mm,
I made this change. I worked on this project for 3 months. This was the result. Was it better also than my previous kind of result? And you can make a much tighter correlation
definitely.
connection.
If you
Yeah.
certainly when you split testing stuff, I mean, you can generate multiple headlines and see what's working, what's not. You can like edit your leads, give different variants, and then see how that affects it. So it's cool to be able to get things tested fast and then see the results of that.
Mm. And so you mentioned, if I noted it down correctly, so you focused on sales letters and it's in the health space, right?
Mm, yeah, exactly. It's all
How did
front end stuff.
Okay, how did you come to that direction?
So my two earliest mentors, the guy that I first joined up with, um, that guy, that was pretty much what he does. He was like a hardcore direct response copywriter, and he writes a lot of front end promos, and that's what he was encouraging me to do. Is like keep write sales letters. Like it's one of the best things that you can do. It's one of the hardest skill sets, but it's the most rewarding in copy. Um, so I just kept following that path. I pretty much just did what my mentor said, to be honest.
Yeah.
I put that thinking part on autopilot. So I'm like, whatever this guy says, he holds the answers and the secrets. I'm just going to follow what he says. That's generally my strategy with mentors.
Yeah. No, that's it's interesting you say that, because someone I spoke with recently, their big thing, they were saying they weren't coaches, but they were working with clients, and they were saying the people you work with, whether they're clients or students, they need to be coachable. They need
Mm,
to just trust the process, trust what you're teaching, and not necessarily fight against everything. Just be like, hey, look, this is how I teach. This is my process. This is what's going to
mm,
get you the results that I got. And it sounds like
mm.
you're that perfect student of like coachable.
Yes, yes. No, no. Coachability is massive, and I mean, even now within my network and community, the guys at a higher level than me that I get help from, and who
Hmm.
will help me when I hit snags on like just smaller scales, like how do I deal with the situation or that. And the one guy said to me, the reason why he likes helping me, is because when he tells me what to do, I do it and then get the result.
Yeah.
And then that is very rewarding for him. Like a coach is also looking for someone where, because you also invest in a lot of time, like even as a coach, if you're getting paid, it's not fun if you keep hopping on a call with someone you're trying to coach, and like they're not taking your feedback, they're not implementing the advice, and like they're not making any progress. Like it's just, yeah, you want to be coachable and show up to the coach like positively and just, showing progress.
Yeah. And in that same direction, have you, I mean, in regards to the writing and actually doing the work, have your coaches, do they kind of have frameworks or certain mindsets around things that they've, what's the word, kind of, that's really resonated with you and you've kind of taken on?
Definitely. There's within copy when you're actually producing the work, everyone has slightly different variants of their processes. They'll do different things, but the overall structure is always the same. You always want to do research. You always want to figure out there's certain things that you're looking for.
Hmm.
So when you do your research, you'll kind of be putting that information in. That's how you then create the almost like the ammo that you need to then go ahead and write. And then once you actually start a project, there is a structure to what that letter is, and you kind of just like tackle it in sequence. Um, so in that sense, there's a process. I don't know if you want me to talk more about that, but there is kind of like a structure.
Mm. Well, in regards to, you talk about the research and the research becomes your ammo. Is it,
Mm.
does that directly relate to those sections you were just talking about in the sales letter?
It relates. It relates at different points. So you will collect all your research, and it can appear at many different places in the sales letter. It can inform the entire idea behind the sales letter. So it's really like interwoven at every level.
Yeah.
That's why it's kind of like your ammo, but how it then gets sculpted into the final product, um, like where exactly it goes in is variable.
Okay, and that comes down to potentially the style of each person, the personality of each person, a little bit.
Yeah, not exactly that. It's hard to describe. It's kind of like it's just knowing where to place certain things. Like I can find out certain, if I find out what a person desires, there's those things I may want to put up early in the lead, but then later when I'm going through the product reveal where it's like, okay, I use this product and all these amazing things are happening, then other aspects from my research I might want to pull down there. So it just depends on where you're at in the sales letter and exactly what that information is.
Okay, so you're normally, it sounds like there would also be almost like a draft and review and iteration type process.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. Like what I generally try to do is to come up with the overall structure for the letter. I'm like, okay, this is the idea. This is the type of lead that I'm going with. Here's what my story is going to be about. This is what the mechanism for it is. The mechanism being the reason why this product actually works, all the way through to the close. Like I have an idea of what that structure is in my mind. I'll then just try and bang out like a first draft, get all the components down. And then I'll go back and be like, what sections are fitting here? What things do I need to take out? What is missing? What should I put in? Do I need to go back to research maybe and like fill in the gap? So it's kind of like a very interactive process with the sales letter.
It's interesting because obviously the sales letter is one flowing big thing. It's being read as one thing, but then at the same time,
Yeah.
you're also seeing it as sections. It kind of reminds me of the one metaphor someone else I was speaking was talking about how you have the forest and then you want to see kind of what the entire image or goal is looking like, and then you zoom into the like to the trees, and that can be like the sections, but then you've got the whole sales there. Like it needs to all be coherent, and you need to know where you're going with it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from the reader's perspective, it's one experience for them, going from start to finish. So it needs to have like overall, it needs to have this consistent feel to it. But in reality, like as the copywriter, it is actually just specific sections that are actually interchangeable. But the way that they could be interchangeable. I could put a totally different mechanism in there and it won't change the experience. But it's your ability to weave that thing conversationally and in a way that's just natural, that gives the illusion of it just being like one piece.
Yeah. When you say mechanism, what do you mean by that?
So a mechanism is a thing that differentiates your product. When you enter a market that's really saturated, what happens is everybody's saying, "Hey, here's how." It's like those coaches, how to make $10,000 in 3 weeks or something. It's like everyone's saying the same thing, and it's like, well, there's a sea of people to potentially choose from. Who do I choose from? So the way that you differentiate yourself is you create a mechanism. It's my particular patented proprietary method that gets the results. It's because of this method that you'll get those results. So that's how you stand out. So the mechanism is key in the markets that I write in because they're so incredibly saturated.
Yeah, it's. I thought it might tie back a little bit to this other framework. I always keep in mind. It's like you know who you're trying to help, you know what goal they're looking for, but what they call the mechanism sits between that, and you could swap that out with so many different things. It's like you know the person, you know the result, but you can help them achieve that goal in so many different ways. And they were referring to that as a mechanism. I thought there might be a bit of overlap.
I think it probably is the same thing because it's essentially the way that you're going to deliver those results.
Yeah.
And by having a way to deliver results inspires more confidence because you're not just claiming I'm going to do it. It's not like, hey, I'm just going to get you these results. It's like, I'm going to get you these results because we're going to follow this particular system.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you were looking back, because you're 1.5 years into the copywriting journey now, right? Like
Yeah, that's about right.
if you kind of had to give yourself a message from like now, what would you have done anything differently?
That's interesting. I think there's potentially one way I could have moved along faster. And this again, like comes back to the idea of a mentor. But this also depends on, the individual. But for me, I think if I had joined either an agency or group of marketers early on, and I kind of gone as like joining a team, that may have shortcutted the process because then it would have been a lot more feedback from someone better than me on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I've also heard from a lot of people in the agency world, but more on like design and like building websites and stuff, how they said you work such ridiculous hours and you get like really taken for all your worth, but you get exposed to so many different projects and clients and situations that you do learn a ton really fast. It's just really
Really fast.
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of long-term thinking then. It's like how bad you want that long-term goal. Um, if you want to shortcut that process, sometimes you just have to sacrifice. And if you're willing to do that, that would be a faster way of doing it. Another thing I'd say is to surround yourself with a network. Find people that are unified with trying to achieve the same goal. Be in contact with them, speak to them regularly within the week. Try and create masterminds with them where you hop on a call once a week and like you just talk about what you're dealing with and stuff. Like you really want to immerse yourself in the world as much as possible, because that really also makes a huge difference. So I would say like definitely network with people who are trying to achieve the same thing you are.
Yeah, I mean, and for someone coming from the legal world to like doing very well in the copywriting world in just a year and a half, it's like you pretty much followed those exact steps.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, I don't think becoming successful is like a mystery in any way. I don't think, I think it's difficult because sometimes it just requires like taking difficult actions. But if you reverse engineer any successful person, you'll see there's always steps in common. And, if you just decide that you want to do something, you practice it, you find a mentor, you surround yourself with a network of people, and you just keep going every single day, you will succeed. And I think the real test is how you respond when you hit your lowest point, when you're down on yourself and you're thinking that you're failing and nothing's going to work out. A lot of people at that point will kind of want like give up or get away from it. But if you in your darkest hour can still show up and then take daily consistent action, that's going to make a massive difference. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's also where, from my experience, where it really helps to have that community and people who are on the goal, like, hey, just keep your head
Support network.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that support
Yeah.
network.
Yeah, totally. Like my first mentor, I remember when I was struggling on Upwork, I was trying to get clients and everything. And he just said to me, he's like, dude, it's like you're playing baseball. You got to just stand up to the pitch. Well, I don't know what they call it in
The
baseball.
base, yeah.
The base. And you just got to keep swinging. It's like you're going to miss a lot. But if you just hit one of those balls, you're a little bit better now. Like that sort of mentality. Like just keep swinging. Keep taking swings.
Yeah, I think that's like a perfect kind of little catchphrase to wrap up on. And yeah, I loved hearing the kind of consistencies in regards to your mindsets around getting the mentor and just how quickly you got to where you are now by following that exact same thing you're saying now. So if anyone wants to reach out to you or kind of check out what you're doing or get in contact, is there any particular way that they should reach out?
Yeah, I mean, a good way to reach out is probably through, you can reach out through Facebook, Jonathan Fisher. I don't keep a public like website or anything like that. Haven't really had the need to up till now, but long story short, Facebook.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed our quick chat today, and I definitely think, yeah, you really summarize things really nicely, which people can take away and use straight away, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah, good chatting to you.
Same to you, Johnny.